All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. I think we're going now. I hope we're going now. The restream says that we're going, but I don't see the video live in my YouTube, but I'm pretty sure we're going, so I'm going to just continue to talk. Welcome to Halitics. There we go. And it is the 4th of July. You can call it Independence Day if you prefer. I don't know. I think one is considered to be more progressive or more politically correct than the other. I'm not sure which is worse, which is better. Let me just put my laptop down. There you go. See my head disappear. It's always an honor for me. It's a privilege that I get to do this show. So I really don't like to miss any when I'm here. Obviously, I was traveling, so I don't do it because it's really tough. Some people can from their laptop, but you know, I just do a lot of little things, a lot of different things when I'm doing these programs, and it just gets tough, to be perfectly honest with you. It says I am live streaming, except I don't have the right, and I can even hear myself there, so that's good. The only problem is it doesn't show the Jill Stein image on the thumbnail, but that's okay. I'll show you that, and I can always add it later. If you want to join me, I hope you will on this 4th of July, 240-242-5646. And I will start, as I always do of late, and center the victims of Israeli and American violence. You know, I don't want to really say terms like colonialism and imperial. It is American imperialism, but basically racism, land grab by Israel, ethnicism, whatever it is, it's ugly, it's destructive, it's cruel, it's the worst of humanity, and we're seeing it right now in full display. We are actually helping it. This is from Anadolu Ajansi, that is, of course, the Turkish news agency. And there are a lot of problems with Turkey. Turkey is not a great country. Turkey is a repressive, authoritarian state. The president, what's the guy's name now? I can't even, Erdogan is a terrible person. So I'm certainly not in any way, endorsing Turkey by going to their news source for information about what's happening in Gaza, but they're reliable. They just quote the numbers from the Palestinian authorities there, the Hamas health ministry, and those numbers have been shown repeatedly to be as accurate as any we can get. Now, of course, they're not perfect because sometimes dead people aren't found, bodies aren't recovered, or we can't be sure, the authorities can't be sure when somebody was killed by Israel. If anything, the numbers are higher. I heard this morning on the news some sort of positive, something that sounded hopeful, something that sounded optimistic, that Israel might be considering. I know Joe Biden said that Israel had already approved the ceasefire plan that he had proposed. Of course, doesn't really look like they did, but they haven't yet, but he said they did. So maybe they will, maybe they are, maybe that's going to happen. And I was a little bit optimistic when I heard that. But this is the deal. It may well be that Israel's going to kill fewer people going forward. They may agree to a ceasefire. They may feel the pressure is so great that they have no choice but to stop killing Gazans for a little bit. But man, they're taking as many as they possibly can down beforehand. And we're sure they'll continue it after the fact. Only sustained pressure, really, even from the international community, isn't enough. It has to be from the United States. And we haven't provided it. There has been a complete failure of leadership from Joe Biden. From the top, there's been a complete failure of leadership. And that's why we're complicit in genocide. That's why I will not vote for Joe Biden. That's why I don't think anyone should consider voting for Joe Biden. I would note that this position I'm taking is pretty unique, right? I mean, there's a few others who take the same view, who are in media. I don't know that I would kind of maybe pompous and say, well, I'm in media. I mean, I do media. I do this live stream. But maybe Brianna Joy Gray. If you watch the others, if you watch the other so-called Revolutionary Blackout Network, they're I don't know if they're for Jill Stein, but they're certainly not for Joe Biden. They're against Joe Biden. But Klinsky, the what are they called? The Breaking Points group. As far as I can tell, they support the Democrat, whoever it is. They're upset about Joe Biden because they fear he could lose, not because they're so. I mean, they criticize him for sure, but it's clear they want Biden to win. There's a group called Do Dissidents. I think they do a nice show. They do a good job. But their focus is completely on Biden. They don't talk about the alternatives. So we provide you here on Halitics with alternatives to the duopoly. And I don't see any, I won't even say there's no one else. Who else could you vote for at this point? It certainly can't be RFK Jr. He's made it absolutely abundantly clear he supports Israel come hell or high water. Doesn't matter what they do to the people of Palestine. He's for them. He's for Israel, that is. He's for the massacres. And you can see the title I put there. Let me take that Halitics oval out so I don't have two of them. She is the one candidate, I believe, who is for our freedom, for our independence, and those of people around the world who are oppressed, who are being persecuted, who don't have even if they have some political freedoms, it's kind of meaningless if you're hungry. It's kind of meaningless if you don't have a job. It's kind of meaningless if you can't take care of your family, basic needs, don't have a retirement plan. She's the one candidate who really wants, I believe, who will pursue policies. And, we've been fooled before. I thought Barack Obama was going to be a transformative president. And he wasn't. He just wasn't. And you can say, well, he transformed the Democratic Party into Republican Party light. It was already there. It was already there. Look, who was the choice? It was either him or Hillary. So we hoped Obama would be better. He wasn't. He really wasn't. Wait, that's not what I want. I don't want to show that oval. I want to show my subscribe now. Let me see if I can get my subscribe now up for you. Yeah, I'm a little bit flustered because I'm still fighting those gremlins that are associated with this transition from my old Halitics account to the new one. I'm transferring everything to a new account just to consolidate and actually in the end save a little money. Make sure I have complete control over all my materials, but it's proven to be a little more challenging than I thought it would be. Biden's evident incompetence. And I played a clip. I didn't watch the debate live. Wasn't really interested. I only played that clip yesterday when Biden, and again, I won't say he lied, when Biden just flat out misstated that Israel had approved the ceasefire plan that he had proposed, which they haven't. Netanyahu's made it absolutely clear. He said repeatedly, no, I did not approve it. I'm not in favor of the ceasefire plan that Biden proposed. We are not going in that direction. And he's proven it, has Netanyahu, by his actions. Another 58 Gazans slaughtered yesterday, in the past 24 hours. So I only watched that very small part of the debate. Maybe there were a few other places, I guess, where he said we finally got Medicare, stopped Medicare, something. He didn't got something about Medicare. He said it completely wrong. I saw that clip and I played for you. I said, this guy can't be president. It's clear he can't be. And a lot of the so-called liberal media gets that now. I mean, it's pretty hard not to. A lot of people don't. A lot of people say, oh, he was for me, so I'm for him, and you better not abandon him, and all that kind of nonsense. And he's been for me, which, no, he hasn't. But okay, if you want to believe that, you want to believe Joe Biden's career is about you rather than about the credit card industry and about the student loan usurers and the war machine and the for-profit healthcare industry. If you want to believe he's there for you, be my guest. Want to believe he wasn't there for Clarence Thomas? Sure. This is another meme that I saw this in my feed. A couple of people posted this, somebody I have respect for, somebody who at least used to be very active in this, calling in this program and an active viewer, posted this. And I just was like, really? You're going there? You're going to start talking about how she was right? And I love this. I don't give an F what you think of her. She was right about all of it. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't really, I have great antipathy towards Hillary Clinton. I don't like Hillary Clinton. I think very little of Hillary Clinton. I think that of Hillary Clinton because of the things she has done over her career, which have been very, very bad for our country. She's hurt our country. She's damaged our country in many ways. And she's done virtually no good for it. So she's been, on balance, a really, really bad influence in America. So you can disagree, you can provide evidence, but to lead off with, well, I don't give an F what you think of her. I mean, what the hell is that about? Aren't we supposed to have a conversation? It's supposed to be a dialogue? If you think she was right, what was she right about? And we're going to go through this. This is really important. And I'll tell you why it's important. Because Hillary Clinton is the face of the Democratic Party, probably more than anyone else, well, except for those who've been president. She is out there, and she is emblematic of this party. Now, you could say, well, it's her husband. You could say it's Barack Obama. But the fact is, they're pretty much under the radar. Every now and then, Barack Obama goes out and scolds people for not voting for somebody that he thinks they should vote for. Every now and then, he says, well, we have to do more for the climate crisis. Young people shouldn't give up hope without acknowledging that he's the reason that we're giving up hope, that he failed. He completely, utterly failed to rein in the oil and gas industry. He empowered it, much as Hillary Clinton did during the early 2000s, touring the globe, making the world safe for the frackers. And that's Hillary Clinton. That's what she did. That's who she is. That's why I don't like her. But it's really important to go through this because she is the face, more than anyone, of today's Democratic Party. And that's why I don't see how anyone can vote certainly for Joe Biden or for the replacements being discussed, who are pretty much just as bad, right? She's the Democratic Party. Joe Biden is part of her Democratic Party. And if he doesn't run, whoever does will be a disciple of Hillary Clinton. So I think it's important that we go through this. And if you want to say she was right, let's go through that. Where was she right? What did she get right? What are the policies you believe? Or maybe she didn't. I mean, I clearly think she got everything wrong. But I'm going to list it. I'm going to list here, but then I'm going to go into greater detail because this was my response to that post. So my was just, well, here are some things. You're saying she was right about everything, right? That post says she was right about everything. That's the exact words from it. Let me just make sure I show it one more time because I don't want there to be any question about what Clinton what the meme says, right? Like, I don't want to misstate it and have someone say, well, Hal, that's not really what the meme said. You mischaracterized it. So here it is. She was right about everything. If she was right about everything, that means she's wrong about nothing. I don't think there's any way to, spin that. She's right about everything. She's wrong about nothing. So let's go through that. Was she right to authorize? She voted for, right? She voted to authorize W to go into Iraq and destroy that country and turn it into a terrorist zone and separate and get rid of the one country that separated Iraq and Syria. Sorry, Iran. She destroyed Iraq. That Iran and Syria turned basically made Al-Qaeda just an incredibly powerful force. Was she right to vote to authorize that? Was she right in 2016 not to campaign in Wisconsin or Michigan? Was she right to support most favored nation status for China? We'll get into that in a little bit. How about overthrowing democracy in Honduras? social democracy in favor of a military junta. That's what she did when she was Secretary of State. How about turning Libya into a terrorist training zone? Remember, we came, we conquered, we killed or something? We came, we saw, he died when she was talking about Gaddafi? How did that work out, Hillary? What about when she said she landed in Sarajevo under fire? Was she right then? How about keeping the minimum wage when she was Secretary of State in Haiti at 29 cents an hour? How did that work out for the people of Haiti? Let's look at Haiti right now. How well is Haiti doing? Not very, last I checked. So I'm like, wait a second. She's right about everything. I struggle to find anything she was right about. I guess she was right about how all of this would do wonders for her bank account. That's true. She's quite rich. And she wasn't. She left the White House. She and Bill were bankrupt. They had debts. They had no money. They were busted. They were flat broke when she left the White House back in 2001. But I guess what she did worked out really well. She was right there. But for the rest of us, not so much. And I haven't even stopped. What about elevating Trump as a Pied Piper candidate? She wanted Donald Trump to be her opponent, right? She wanted to go up against what she believed would be the weakest Republican, the one even she could beat. And how did that work out? Was she right there? I mean, what was she right about? That's my question. I haven't seen an answer. I've seen this meme posted in a lot of places, the one about she was right about everything, and other people have pushed back. Most support it, like, love, hearts, care. Really? She's the Democrat, base of our Democrat Party. These policies that she embraced, they're exactly what the Democratic Party embraces. It's not just Hillary, right? I mean, Joe Biden was all in for war with Iraq. The Democratic Party has basically forsaken the Midwest, Wisconsin, Michigan, the like. There's been a pivot against China. That was mainly Trump. A recognition that China was doing us harm, that trade with China was not to our benefit. We'll get to that. We're very, very involved and invested in other countries and trying to tell them what to do, just like we were when she was president, and doing the wrong thing over and over and over again. So if you're going to say that Hillary Clinton, Hal, get over it. Hillary's not the face of the Democrat Party anymore. She's retired. No, her policies, what she does, what she says is what this party's all about. All in for war, for destroying Gaza. All in for endless proxy war with Russia. That's Hillary Clinton. It's just that simple. So this is just more reason you should not vote for Democrats. And if you want to say, well, the squad, I mean, they're different. They're breaking with Hillary. They endorse Bernie. Come on. They all endorse Joe. None of them said we need to go in a different direction. Hillary was, she's always wrong, and her policies for so long have been wrong. But right now, I think the biggest challenge we face as a nation, and I put that up because this is your Democratic right fellow. This is a big reason, too, why I think we really need to move to the Green Party. Because the Democratic voter, it's not just the establishment, it's the actual voter. They support the Clintons. They support Obama policy. They're not. They voted, and trust me, I was no Jamal Bowman fan. But at least he was sort of at least to his credit, he was targeted by AIPAC. Usually candidates that AIPAC doesn't like are better than candidates that AIPAC does like. I would say that's always the case. They hate Nina Turner. She was much better than the alternative in Ohio, Chantel Brown. They can't stand Summer Lee. She's okay. She's not my favorite. She's okay. They were all in to defeat Donna Edwards running for Congress in Maryland last year, 2 years ago. She was better than Glenn Ivey. So if a candidate is opposed by AIPAC, then probably they're a little better than if they're not. Democratic primary voters, by and large now, have turned their back on the arguably more progressive ones and are embracing the George Latimers, the Glenn Ivies, the Chantel Browns, the AIPAC, the Richie Torreses, the AIPAC approved Democrats. That's who the Democratic rank and file supports. It seems clear to me they're not good actors. They're not who we should be behind. They're not who we should support. Let's get to Hillary on Gaza. This is super important. She was on The View, and this was about a month after Israel had begun its murderous reprisal against, well, they say Gaza, but against Hamas, but really just against the people of Gaza, trying to just eradicate that region. Here she is on The View.
You explain that, because I know there is a deep passion and compassion for the Palestinian people.
Right. All right, she said, I know there's a deep passion and compassion for the Palestinian people. Why would you know that? I mean, why would you know that? What Alyssa Farah, I believe that's her name, would cause you to believe that Hillary has any concerns for the Palestinian people? I just find that, and always love these just empty words with no meaning whatsoever.
And they're suffering, but there is this entity there that is so dangerous.
Well, Alyssa, you're absolutely right. And, I feel so personally committed to trying to figure out how to help the Israelis and the Palestinians live in peace. And
Okay, I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it? I'm so committed. I want them to live in peace.
I negotiated a ceasefire in November.
I heard that. She said she negotiated a ceasefire. When I heard that, I really wanted to go back, and we'll go back into the record in a moment. Let me just play a little bit more. But she said, hey, I did it. I negotiated a ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinians.
2012, so I understand
2012.
What it takes to try to stop violence. But remember, there was a ceasefire on October 6th.
Right, so Hillary's telling you there was a ceasefire October 6th. And remember, she's always right. She was right about everything, so I guess that must be true. There was a ceasefire October 6th, 23.
That Hamas broke.
And Hamas
by
broke it.
Their barbaric assault on peaceful civilians, and their kidnapping, their killing, their beheading, their terrible, inhumane savagery. There was a ceasefire. It did not hold because Hamas chose to break it. So you have to keep...
All right, so it's all on Hamas. It's all Hamas, and it's too bad. We have young babies being killed, women, civilians all dying, American bombs. It's Hamas, barbaric, it's their fault. So I went back in the record because I was really curious. Like, is that true what she said? It must be true because she's right about everything. By the way, one more point on this before why I'm doing this. Some will say, well, Hal, come on. We're up against Trump. We can't be. This is a circular firing squad. We've got Hillary on one side. We've got Trump on the other. So we've got to take the side of Hillary. No, Hillary and Trump are on the same side, and both completely on the side of genocide, completely excusing Israeli violence, unjustified violence. It's not like they're two different, they're the same. I know they went up against each other in an election, but their policies are both awful. And the policies that Hillary Clinton embraced are a big reason that we got Trump in the first place. Huge reason. You cannot overstate, I cannot overemphasize how important it is to recognize that it's Hillary Clinton policies and other policy, Democratic Party policies that brought Trump to power. And the policy that they pursue are no better than Trump's. So why would we embrace any Democrat at this point unless they're prepared to make a volte-face to just say, no more, we're done, we're moving in a completely different direction, and not one Democrat that you're hearing touted as a potential replacement, whether it's Kamala, whether it's Gretchen Whitmer, whether it's Newsom, whether Gina Raimondo, horrible Wall Street financier who pretty much bankrupted Rhode Island, sent their pension funds, privatized them, brought their unemployment rate to the highest in the nation, and the Washington Post likes her to be the replacement. Treasury Secretary. Is she Treasury Secretary? I think she is. Okay, this is from The Wire. Jewish Voice for Peace, November 24, 23. So after November 7th, explaining what happened before October 7th. And I would assume there were no problem, because didn't Hillary just tell us? Hillary told us that there was a ceasefire on October 6th. So everything was hunky-dory until those barbarians, those inhuman, non-human Palestinians, Hamas, broke that. Everything was great. That's what she told you. So I was amazed that Jewish Voice for Peace was telling me that over the past year, this is a dateline November 23. So over the past year, that's before, right? The past year would be from November 22 to November 23. That includes a lot of time that isn't after October 7. And before October 7, October 6, there's a ceasefire, according to Hillary, that she brokered it. She was responsible for it, she says. And she's always right about everything. She was right about everything, so she must be right about this. Again, this isn't about bashing Hillary Clinton. This is why the idea that you should be voting for whoever the Democrat is absurd. They're not for peace. They're not for justice. They're not for freedom. They're for genocide. They're for endless war. They're for corporate control. And perhaps in some ways worse than Trump. So ethnic cleansing of Palestinians has always been Israeli policy. Over the past year, the Israeli military and settlers have led an escalated campaign of displacement, dispossession, and violent repression against Palestinians across Israel. Now, I don't know. How could that be? Didn't Hillary just say there was a ceasefire on October 6th? Well, I don't know. These pictures don't sort of suggest that that's true. So my calendar tells me March 1, 2023 is before October 7, 2023. There's a pogrom in Huwara. West Bank, this is territory that supposedly is Palestinian. And hundreds of Palestinians are injured by mobs of armed Israeli settlers who are illegally settling in that area. They're burning homes to the ground. Now, just to understand, this was triggered, apparently it was catalyzed by the shooting and killing of 2 Israeli settlers who were settled illegally in that area in Huwara. And a Palestinian man, I guess he had, went a little crazy, understandably so, shot up a couple of farmers, a couple of settlers, Jewish, Israeli, and they responded. The Israeli government responded. The Israeli settlers responded by burning Palestinian homes to the ground. Strange. Doesn't look like a ceasefire. I don't know. For me, that's not a ceasefire. I guess for Hillary, that is. The call for genocide pretty much began right away. Here you have this Israeli parliament member, Smotrich. The village of Huwara needs to be wiped out. Those are the people Hillary Clinton supports. Those are her peeps. That's who the Democratic Party supports. Again, I know Trump, Trump. But how? What about Trump? We can't vote for Trump. You can't vote. If you don't vote for Biden or Kamala or Gavin Newsom or whoever it is, you're voting for Trump. I reject that. I won't accept that argument. You have to convince me on your own that at least you're better than the status quo, that you're going to make things better. And what we've seen from Democrats, from at least going back at least as far as Bill Clinton, as the Clintons, they made things worse. They made things in America worse. Bill Clinton locked up more African Americans than any other president in American history. Bill Clinton's, quote, free, unquote, trade deals have led to millions and millions of job losses and much worse wages for working people. You can't spin this stuff. Bill Clinton threw millions of people off of relief that they needed to have a decent, to be able to survive with some degree of dignity. The Democratic Party, the Democratic leadership, Democrats in office have made things worse. It's not that they're not perfect. It's not like there's some litmus test that they're not meeting. They make things worse. They support the genocidal state of Israel. Even though there was a ceasefire, Smotrich there, he wants to construct 45, in fact, they're authorized to construct 4,500 new illegal settlements, and then they kill 6 Palestinians, the military there. This is all before October 7. You didn't hear that from Hillary Clinton. Gangs of armed settlers carried out 5 days of pogrom attacks on over a dozen. This is the Jewish Voice for Peace. This isn't from some neo-Nazi group that, hates Jews. This is the Jewish Voice for Peace. And by the way, even if they were, maybe they're self-hating Jews. Maybe they hate Jews because they see what Jews are doing and they hate Jews. Well, I'm Jewish. I don't hate Jews. I just hate what Israel's doing. But let's say, and Norman Finkelstein made a great point. He said, hey, maybe I am a self-hating Jew, because he's been one of the strongest, most vocal, most articulate, most powerful voices against what Israel's doing. And he made the point, he said, maybe I am a self-hating Jew. Does that mean I'm wrong? Does that mean what I'm saying about Israel is wrong? What matters is the truth. And the truth is that Israel is right now an evil state. It has turned into what they claim to hate. It's turned into the Nazis. And that's not hyperbole. That's not over the top. That's just the way it is. And we're supporting Joe Biden and the Democrat. The Democrat Party is all in. I don't care which. They all voted for that. Virtually every single one voted for arms for Israel. Virtually every last one. Even Chris Van Hollen did. Well, I had to because, we have to keep killing Russians. We have to keep the proxy war with Russia going, and I couldn't do that if I voted against the aid for Israel. Okay. Collective punishment against Palestinians. This is August 23rd, 2023. So a bunch of different horrific atrocities Israel commits against Palestinians in the year of October 7, before October 7. Which is strange because Hillary said there was a ceasefire on the 6th. I don't know. I guess it was Israel that wasn't right. It was Israel that wasn't observing the ceasefire. Right? Not the Palestinians. And you can see more numbers here. In 2022, when there was a ceasefire, per Hillary, 154 Palestinians were killed. 2022 in the West Bank. Occupied by Israel. Occupied land. Not much of a ceasefire, obviously. Clearly it was not. And then 2023, even more, before October 7. So before October 7, since October 7, we've seen 38,000 plus Gazans slaughtered by Israel. But before October 7, when there was a ceasefire, according to Hillary, Israel killed 199 Palestinians before the 7. It's strange because she's right about everything, but clearly not right about that. By the way, if you want to know why Trump might well win, probably will win, a big factor is Biden's uncompromising support for Israel. This is horrible. It's immoral. It's wrong. If you vote for Biden, you're complicit in that. And I see so many people online trying to spin it. Oh, we support Israel. We don't support Netanyahu. We this, we that. We're just helping Israel. We're not helping the genocide. The hell we aren't. It's our bombs that are killing them. And Biden's running cover for Israel because he's saying it's Israel that wants the ceasefire when it's absolutely not. It's absolutely not the case. All right, I talked a lot about the West Bank just now. It's hard for me to get. I would say I couldn't find casualty figures in Gaza pre-Oct 7, 23. I wanted to get those. I could say, hey, look, Israel was killing people in the West Bank, not just in the West Bank, but also Gaza. But the conditions in Gaza, whether Israel was, regardless of how many people the Israeli military was killing, the Israeli police were, failing to protect in that occupied area, conditions were horrific. And I think, what did Hillary say that ceasefire she negotiated was 2012, right? So for 10 years after, through June 22, when this report came out, and up till the current day, by the way, Israel has been blockading Gaza. So it's odd because she says there's a ceasefire, but yet Israel's blockading Gaza. And what's it done? What has that blockade that Israel has imposed? What are conditions like? Because if you're going to say it was just the brutal, barbarian nature, the medieval Hamas that's responsible, then I think you're also saying things weren't so bad. Yeah, maybe they had some legitimate grievances, but nothing that would justify any kind of attack. It's not like there were pogroms against Palestinians on the West Bank, right? I mean, because whatever happened nothing Israel did could possibly explain or justify the attack on October 7. Certainly, there's no context that we need to look at. We just heard from Hillary, there was a ceasefire at that time. At the time of the ceasefire, unemployment levels in Gaza were among the highest in the world, 47% in 2022. So after the ceasefire that Hillary helped broker, the unemployment rate went up from an incredibly high 35% in 2006 to 47%. Ceasefire didn't go so well for those Gazans, apparently. What else? What else can we talk about? How bad things were in Gaza. And yet, who do we support? Who are we backing? Who is Joe Biden all in for? The oppressor state, the persecutory state, the genocidal state. 2022, well over half of Palestinians require food assistance. They're hungry people. They don't have enough food because of that blockade that Israel's imposed. They've herded people into this tiny little area. And they don't have enough to eat. They don't have fresh water to drink. I mean, this is what we're doing. This is what we, through our support of Israel, are doing. When you watch other live streamers, other podcasters, other people video, they're not telling you can't vote for Democrat. Even the progressives well, maybe we've got to replace Biden. He's horrible, he's demented. But it's not a question of replacing Biden. Biden's a broken down rider on a horse, the Democratic Party, that has been riding, galloping in precisely the wrong direction. And you want to replace the rider, a senile, demented, feeble Joe Biden, with a more vibrant rider who's going to use their crop a little bit and get that horse riding even faster in the wrong direction? Gee, that sounds like a great plan to me. No, we've got to use this as leverage to say no more to no more Democrats. We're done with you, at least for presidential politics. And unless you have a candidate who simply is willing to say, no, this party is wrong. Kind of like the AOC we saw in 2016, I believe it was 2016. The one who, for about a cup of coffee, actually took on Nancy Pelosi before Nancy became Mother Bear to her, Mama Bear to her. The Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton's failings don't begin and end with Gaza. Now, Palestine. Frankly, they're enough. That is such a crime against humanity. It's such an atrocity what Israel is doing with our support, our full-throated support, Hillary Clinton's full-throated support. It's such a crime against humanity that it alone, in my view, makes voting for a Democrat very, very fraught. But there are a lot of other issues where the Democrats have failed us, where Hillary Clinton has failed us. And I know she's always right, because that's what that meme said, right? What did that meme say again? Let me get that up there again for you, just so you can see it. This is when you do this, folks, when you post this crap, or those who post this, you really help Trump out. You help Trump so much, because it's so clearly ridiculous. It's so clearly absurd that you lose credibility when you talk about issues that really could matter. Like, hey, Trump's an autocrat. Trump's an authoritarian. Trump's incredibly corrupt. He used the White House to enrich himself and his family. Trump talked a good game about trade. He was right. He is right about China eating our lunch. But his policies ultimately didn't lead to, they didn't lead to any kind of resurgence of American manufacturing, because he wasn't prepared to push hard for tariffs across the board, so that we just simply, it's not just China. China's a big part of the problem, but they're not the whole problem, right? There's Vietnam. There's other countries now where labor is paid less. There's the Clintons' favorite banana republic, Haiti, where, they completely gutted that island. So China's a problem, a big, big, big problem. Trump's right about that. But in the end, his policies didn't go far enough. So we could talk about that. We could make a case against Trump. But if you're going to start saying, she's always right, I don't give an F what you think about her, she was right. If you're going to take that position, then you lose all credibility. No one's going to believe a word you say. Especially because the policies that she pursued, that her party pursued, brought us Trump. And I don't think there's a better example of that than the permanent trade normalization with China, which was a disaster for American working people. It was, what was it? The TPP, which Obama championed, called NAFTA on steroids. And Clinton had originally supported, I think ultimately she couldn't in 2016 because she knew it would was just that unpopular, and rightly so. Horrible, horrible policy, the TPP that, Obama pushed. But let's just go back into time a little bit. So back in 2000, Clinton really pushed for permanent trade normalization with China. And his argument was, if we do this, our companies will be able to sell and distribute products in China made by American workers on American soil, which is true. They could do that. But the flip side is that Chinese companies or American companies in China that had relocated to China, that built plants in China, that employed Chinese people, would also be able to sell in this country. And guess what? Since the Chinese were being paid at that time probably less than $1 an hour, where the hell, if you're a manufacturer, you'd be insane not to take advantage of that. And not only would you be insane, you'd also pretty quickly be bankrupt. Because if you assembled computers in Texas and you were paying people $20 an hour, the company that's making them in China, paying their workers their $1 an hour, would be able to undercut you massively. And you'd be out of business. So that permanent trade normalization with China was devastating. And the excuse for it, right? The explanation, the justification. Well, we can sell in China, right? Oh, we can sell in China. It'll all be great. Except you ignore, and I mean, and Clinton was, new to ignore it. He was smart. Well, of course, we're not going to tell people how all the manufacturing is going to go overseas. We aren't going to tell them that. But that's precisely what happened. And it was easily foreseeable. Nobody doubted that this would happen. You already knew this would happen because this is what happened with NAFTA. Only it got even worse. Now, Clinton, meaning Hillary, she supported it. She supported her husband's plan to normalize trade with China. So she's part and parcel of that problem, that terrible policy. Now, it was terrible for working Americans. It was terrible for small businesses that depended on their custom. But it was great for the offshorers, the short timers. It's great for the fossil fuel burners, the diesel purveyors, the diesel energy purveyors that sold to the container ships. They all did really great. But the U.S. workers that Hillary says she cared about, they got screwed to the wall. And again, it's not just Hillary. That's your Democratic Party. When you say, by the way, when you say, well, she's right about everything, you lose. No one's going to believe you. And the problem, though, is that there's this Me Too chorus, right? There's this echo chamber. So you have this group of relatively affluent, highly educated people concentrated in a few areas, and they are talking to each other. And you have really zero understanding of how horrible, how awful the Clinton policies were, the Democratic policies were, and how much harm they did to our country. Even the Atlantic, even the neoliberal Atlantic, as bad as it is on so many, neocon, right? Atlantic is all in for war with, certainly all in for a proxy war with Russia, all in for genocide. They completely, they've gone after the college protesters repeatedly. Even the Atlantic, this back in June of 2018, said this was a mistake. Kind of amazing to me that they would say that. That the Atlantic, I was really surprised when I found that. I was looking around trying to find headlines and stories that support my worldview, which is what I think we all do. And I was like, wow, this is not some lefty rag. This is the Atlantic. And they're saying this was a terrible mistake. And they explain why. They explain. Now, we had, before the permanent normalization of trade with China was passed, with Bill Clinton's aggressive push for it, and his wife Hillary's lobbying as well. She wasn't in the Senate yet, so she couldn't vote for it at that point, but she did lobby for it. She lobbied lawmakers, and she also spoke to businesses and said, "Hey, this is good. This is good. Let's support it. Go tell your legislator to vote for it." She went to businesses and said, "Hey, push for this." And, she was right for a lot of them. For the owners of the businesses, it worked out well. For their employees, not so much. The permanence of PNTR made an enormous difference. And why was that? Why did it? Because in the past, companies might say, well, should I relocate? I don't know. It sounds good. I get a lot of cheap labor over there in China. The government is less likely to enforce pesky environmental regulations. There's a lot of pluses to make manufacturing in China. Workers get paid less. They're docile. There's no unions. There's a lot of positive. But as the Atlantic points out, there was always a danger that you'd have some factory over there in China, some manufacturing plant, or you'd close your plant in the U.S., and the most favored nation status is revoked, and suddenly you're screwed. You're out of luck. Oh my God, no, I can't manufacture anymore. I make this stuff in China, but I can't sell in the United States because they just revoked MFN, and now there are going to be all these tariffs, and I've got stuck all this merchandise. Yeah, I paid the workers $1 an hour. Yeah, I was able to dump effluent waste into the nearest river. Nobody gives a crap. In China, there's no pesky unions complaining about my not paying overtime or keeping workers chained to their desks and their workstations. That's all good, but I just lost MFN, and now I can't sell my stuff in the U.S. anymore without high tariffs, and I lose my competitive advantage. But once PNTR, permanent normalized trade relations with China, was passed, nothing to worry about. U.S. government ain't going to change it. We're going to protect you. We're going to protect your investment. Something changes, we'll make it good. Chimerica had begun. I cannot emphasize enough how awful this policy has proven to be, and free trade in general. It's odd because Hillary was a champion of it, and she's always right about everything, according to that meme that I showed you earlier. So it is a little strange, but yet maybe the memes, just maybe Hillary isn't right about everything, and maybe, just maybe, that meme that said, oh, she's right about everything. Remember, a big reason Trump won is because he talked about the problems that China was causing our country in 2016. And you can see from the EPI there, they were causing a lot of problems. 3.7 million jobs. And by the way, those jobs that weren't lost, they were under a lot of downward pressure when it comes to wages. Hey, you don't like it? You don't like getting no wage, no salary increase for 3 years in a row? Well, hey, you still got a job, don't you? You haven't moved our plant yet. We might do it. I'm not saying we won't. But I would cut out all the chatter about demanding raises and wanting to go on strike and, jumping ship. Where the hell are you going to go? You can't go anywhere else because there's no one else who's making these widgets. Except in China. You want to go to China and make them there? Fine, we'll pay you $1 an hour to make them there. So this policy is a huge reason for Trump. And you want to know, don't even take my word for it. It's obvious, it's self-evident. But look at this from the Washington Post. The neo-lib Washington Post. China may have cost Clinton the election. It's weird because she's right about everything, but look at this. Republicans gained votes in counties that were more exposed to Chinese competition. So if you worked for a plant, I don't know, that assembled computers, because remember all those, Lenovo, all these, IBM used to make computers, they sold to Lenovo. Lenovo making the computers. Apple, they had, I can't remember the name of some Chinese company over there that just made everything, right? Apple stopped making everything in the United States, started making everything in China. Right about this time. People who suffered as a result of that said, hey, why should we vote for the Democrats? They don't care about us. They're not defending, they're not protecting our jobs. Now, I want to be very clear. The Republicans were guilty of this too. The Republicans are just, their policies are just as bad. But if the Democrats don't fight for workers, they will not vote for Democrats. The Republicans do give workers something. It's not worth very much, but it's something. They feed their understandable sense of resentment, their anger. They provide scapegoats. Immigrants is a big one, right? They will use our innate bigotries like homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia. They use all of those. If Democrats don't fight for workers, if Democrats betray workers, just as Republicans do, workers will gravitate to the Republican Party. The reason we have Trump is because of the anti-worker policies that the Democratic Party has embraced, led by the Clintons. So if you say Hillary Clinton's right about everything, you look like a complete jackass. I mean, it's just that simple. There's no way that's in any way a credible position, a justifiable position. But I'm really pissed off. Why the hell did my video start live the way it was supposed to? I'm really frustrated by that. I don't understand that. Oh, I should look at my, I promised Shade, and Shade, I'm very sorry. I promised you I would pop out my chat and I would see if there were any chat, if there was chat. So let me see if I can find chat in here. I'm going to pop it out now. And I don't see any, but see, I didn't see any the other day, yesterday. So I don't know whether I'm not seeing them, because it was weird. After the show, I saw a chat. But, oh yeah, it's a picture. I thought, thank you, Triple G. I thought Hillary was there. No Hillary. I'd love to have Hillary. Can anyone get Hillary on the program? Chinese, by the way, they get what a solid Hillary did for them. This is from July of 2016, why Chinese elites endorse Hillary Clinton. And they say, well, Trump's policies would be softer on China, but the global, so they spin it, right? The spin is, Hillary would be a better president. She would have everything would be stable. So that's better for business in Beijing. Actually, Trump's policies were not soft on China. Trump did raise tariffs on China. That wasn't good for China. It wasn't so great for the United States either, because the jobs didn't come back here. They gravitated to other lower wage countries. But that doesn't mean Trump's inclination to impose tariffs was wrong. It was spot on. It was the right thing to do. The problem was he didn't impose them across the board. He didn't push for tariffs everywhere, which is what he should have done. And that's why it didn't lead to growth the way it should have. But yeah, the Chinese elites got it. They said, hey, Hillary's been good for us. She's made us a piss pot full of money. So sure, we support her. They get it. I talk about two huge issues. I've gone over two incredibly important issues that are a big reason that we had Trump elected in 2016. Well, I shouldn't say that, because Gaza really didn't help, but certainly trade was a big reason. Probably the biggest reason, along with endless war, that Trump was elected in 2016. And Hillary's and the Democratic Party's position, pro-Israel, pro-genocide, pro-Zionist position, is just simply not acceptable. It's so immoral, it's so evil, it's so wrong that it alone really I think, means you can't vote for her. And I get Trump's even worse or as bad, but I'm not saying you should vote for Trump. Don't vote for Trump. You shouldn't vote for Trump. We need to go in a different direction altogether, clearly. Beyond trade, beyond endless war, perhaps the most important issue of all, what we're doing to our mother, destroying our once beautiful blue marble, turning it into a dirty gray ash can. So this is from your San Jose Mercury News. I think it's today, maybe it was yesterday. Fires everywhere. Look at that. The state of California is basically on fire. The climate catastrophe couldn't be more obvious, couldn't be more awful. Destroying, burning up everything. Now, that's been an argument, right? Well, Biden gets it. Biden's all in, you know, he at least he knows it's happening. Okay, well, I don't even know if he knows it's happening. I don't know what he knows at this point, but his actions have exacerbated this. We're burning more fossil fuels than ever. Certainly more gas and oil. The world in 2024 will burn more fossil fuels than it ever has. 2024 is now almost certainly going to be the hottest year ever, after 2023 was the hottest year recorded ever. And those fires are made worse, certainly, are spread more rapidly because of this intense heat. I know there have been fires in California for centuries, for millennia, but they're worse now. 3 times the entire area, 3 times the size of Oakland, 5 times at this point the 5-year average for this time of year. Well, you would think if Joe Biden is stepping down, if he's not going to run, that the elites, who clearly are victims, right, of, in some ways, now I be very, very clear here, poor Australian working class people suffer far more from everything than the elites, than rich, than, you know, people who have as much as I do, or maybe much, much more. You know, we have air conditioning, we can pay for it. There's all sorts of factors. We can fly places where it's cooler. But even the rich suffer as a result of the climate catastrophe. You don't have people going off, jetting off to their ski chalets like they used to. You know, the billionaire class is sweating and sweltering in the heat too. They can't totally escape it. Golf, right? That's a rich person sport. Golf. Can't really play golf much anymore in a lot of places. So it isn't only poor Australian working people who are victims of the climate catastrophe. You'd think, I would think, when you're looking at who we want next to take over as president, or to, you know, for Biden, or next to run in lieu of Biden, that would be a big issue, right? Who's going to be most aggressive in reining in our consumption of and our production of fossil fuels? So I looked at this article in the New York Times, Dateline today, and I wondered if anyone talks about it. By the way, per Triple G, let's remember that Biden takes big credit for killing the Keystone Pipeline, but then approved a bunch of smaller lines. And when you draw those lines on the map, turns out it's the Keystone Pipeline. I didn't know that, Triple G. Thank you. I didn't know he was also taking credit for killing it. I thought that was sort of killed when in 2016. But certainly Biden jammed through the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a terrible, terrible, we've talked about that quite a bit on this program, with the hero from the holler, Maury Johnson. And he also jammed through that Willow Creek carbon bomb in the Arctic Circle. So No, he's not good. He's really bad. He's making things worse. Question here, the New York Times asks, who should lead the Democratic ticket? 6 columnists weigh in. Well, I was like, are they going to talk about issues? What issues do they think matter? Who, because I would assume if you're going to replace Biden, you want to replace him with someone who's going to make things better. So I Googled in this, or I did a search. I didn't really Google. I mean, that's the wrong use of the term Google and erroneous. But I want to see, hey, does anyone talk about the climate crisis? Does anyone talk about global warming, climate change, what have you? And I did find the term does pop up once. One of the 6 columnists mentions climate change. Ross Douthat. It's actually doubt that. I doubt that. No, it's doubt that. I doubt that it's Douthat. It's actually doubt that, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Doubt that in his encomium to Joe Manchin. You can't make this stuff up. We're burning our mother up. And Ross Douthat wants Joe Manchin to be the Democratic nominee. That's the one guy whose name is associated with the climate crisis. And it's not like, oh, he'll fight it, that's why we should support him. It's that he is making it worse. This is your New York Times columnist. Ross Douthat says the reason we should, with the planet burning up, with this being an existential threat on a par with nuclear holocaust, right? He's saying the Democrats should replace Biden with a guy who killed climate change legislation, or in his words, was more skeptical of climate change legislation. More skeptical, he prevented any effort to rein in Arkansas and made it worse by jamming that. He's the one who got Biden to pass that Mountain Valley pipeline through. So your elite liberal media doesn't even consider climate change an issue that you should consider when determining who should be our next president. No. Doesn't matter. Hottest year ever. After the hottest year ever. The West is on fire. We have cataclysmic floods. But doesn't matter. That's not why you vote. The only thing that matters, according to them, is that we defeat Trump. Well, okay, you go ahead and defeat Trump, and then you'll get a worse Trump. Because if the Democrats don't take on the problems that we face, then I guarantee you people will turn to somebody else. I only can say you got to vote for Jill Stein. I don't know who else. I don't know what else to do. There's no one else worth your vote. There's no one else who's going to fight for you. There's no one else who's going to fight for a clean planet. Now, is Jill Stein perfect? I don't think she is. Not at all. I haven't heard her talk a lot about trade. She's too big, in my opinion, on the identity politics stuff. I know some of you feel differently than I do on this. I think we all are in the same boat in the end, pretty much. I mean, no, look, billionaire class isn't. But the issues that we face, the cataclysmic issues, require someone who's going to take steps to make sure everyone has enough and no one has too much. And I think Jill Stein's the one who would do that most, the only one who even really cares about that. Certainly not RFK Jr., whose running mate is a billionaire. Certainly not Biden, Harris, none of the Democrats. All of whom basically, look, the Democrat Party is the party of Hillary Clinton. It's a party of genocide. It's a party of quote free, unquote trade. It's a party of the climate catastrophe. Vote for Jill Stein and enjoy the rest of your Independence Day.